Welcome to the Save vs. Poison podcast, the podcast dedicated to gaming, general geekery, and enduring sobriety in an ever-maddening society, with your host Will and two guys that probably live under his stairs. If you're an addict, know an addict, or are just interested in exploring the outer mysteries of geekery, you're in the right place. Without further ado, let's get to the show. Well, hey everybody. Welcome back to the show. Fantastic to be coming at you all by my lonesome. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for a solo episode. It's your favorite kind. It's just me. Me. Not joining us tonight are my two co-hosts. Steve is currently in the Serengeti of Africa, pursuing the lifelong dream of licking a giraffe. We told him that he could do it here at the zoo. He was like, no. I want the authentic experience. I want to fly through the sky in a shiny sky dildo, get to the African continent, go find myself a wild, not curated, wild giraffe, and give that sumbitch a good licking. Also not joining us, he recently checked the wrong box on a mail order bride form, and unfortunately is now somewhere in Siberian Russia making borscht for a man named Ivan. Who knew there was a reverse version of that? Like it's a mail order bride exchange program type of thing. Yep. Poor Ticky. Poor Ticky. He thought he was it was funny, like they showed up outside his doorstep and you know, they were like, "Listen, you signed the paperwork. You got to come with us." And I was like, "I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that at all." And didn't matter. All his protestations, a taser and a net, and suddenly, boom, Siberia. It's very cold there. I heard going to the toilet can be challenging if you're as old as Ticky is and your balls dip into the water. And if you're not careful, you sit there too long, it is possible to have a frozen testicle in the toilet water, next to a frozen turd. That's. I hope you're getting a full visual image. Like getting off of the toilet is first you have to chip away around the testicles, then you have to like lift them out like they're being airlifted, and then going and pouring hot borscht over them to try to thaw them out. Ooh, I do not envy that young man his time there. I'm doing okay though. I'm okay here in blizzardy Colorado. It's not that blizzardy. We were getting 6 to 7 inches of snow today. The kids are at home with me. So right now, normally we record on a Monday. Sometimes we record on a Tuesday. And oftentimes, all of the stars fail to align. And boom, suddenly it's Wednesday afternoon at 2:33 p.m. And I'm trying to get this thing done and made and out to all of you human beings before I go live on a live stream tonight. Over on twitch.tv // SVP podcast. Come check us out. Wednesdays, Fridays, Sundays. It's a good time, I think. I don't know. I'm the one playing video games and talking, so it always feels like a good time. This week on the show, because it's just me, don't have too much to talk about. The check-in's going to be a little bit longer because I'll get to talk and not be interrupted by psyops or terrible movie reviews or anything like that. It's just me talking to you, bringing my words to your ears. Still sober, so let's pop off with that. Let's start with that. Still sober. Something that's been concerning me though is the things that I do for my sobriety. I don't know if if I'm hitting a wall because of energy or motivation or a lack of clarity in what I want to be presenting on the podcast and on the Twitch streams. But it's been a little bit harder of late to try to come up with content for everything. Now, I know that every week you tune in and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is the best sober content a human being could ever have. It's funny and charming, and God, these guys are funny and good looking, even though you'll never see Steve or Tiki unless we start doing the live stream podcast thing, which we might. So I could totally be called a liar there. I don't know. I'm learning how to be humble from my friend Russ, friend of the show Russ. Lately, he's been telling us how humble he is, like every couple of minutes. First, he'll say he's got a really big penis. Then he'll say, I'm really humble, and I know how to use the damn thing because I'm really humble. That's what he does. Anyways, I know that you guys tune in, and I appreciate the shit out of you all. But for the most part, most of the topics of conversation that we come up with are we're kind of just winging it sometimes. Like early on, I had a ton of motivation. You know, it was easy to take a look at what I was doing creatively and think, a week or two down the road and say, okay, this is going to be our topic for this. This is going to be our topic for the gaming. This is going to be our topic for the sobriety stuff. Now, I don't know if it's because I'm removed from my early time in recovery, or if the maintenance part of recovery just isn't quite as difficult as maybe I think it was going to be, or maybe I'm just not as mindful of the difficulties because I'm 3 years in and things seem to be humming along at a pretty reasonable way. But it has been of recent, like the motivation to do the things that I have stated are a part of my recovery, the podcasting and the Twitch stream, they've been harder and harder to do. It's been hard. It's been like the lead up to when I'm going to go on either recording or going to be on screen. Those have been more difficult to do. Sometimes it's just I don't have a video game that I want to play, and I just, the idea of popping on, saying I'm sober, and then popping off seems like not what I want to do, or what. But there is a part of me where, since I've tied these things to the maintenance phase of my sobriety, which is the long part of sobriety, right? Like, we don't say that sobriety is a destination. It's not. It's a journey. There are many stops. There are many hiccups. There are many trials and tribulations. There are speed bumps. There are all kinds of things that get in the way of your sobriety if you're not careful. So learning to navigate those things is really, really important because you're going to be doing it for the rest of your life. But recently, yeah, it's been hard to want to do the things that keep me sober, or that I at least have stated keep me sober. Over all of this, there's I don't know. I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of the sword of Damocles. There's a lot of geeks out there, but it's basically a curse over your head that if you don't continue to do something or you don't accomplish something, a large doom will befall you. If I do not continue in my sobriety, a large doom could befall me. I could lose access to my wife and to my children and to the lifestyle that I have grown accustomed to, which is terrifying. And I don't know how much of the motivation for sobriety should be rooted in fear. Like, I'm not going to say that it isn't for me. It is. It absolutely is. The idea, the fear of losing my family is omnipresent when I'm thinking about my sobriety in any other term than this is what I do to keep myself sober. If I think for a second, maybe I could have a drink, maybe it would taste good. Damn, look at that guy drinking. It looks like it tastes good. The thought in my head that immediately follows is, if I do that, I will lose this. I will lose X, which is highly important to me. And because the Y, the letter Y, the algebraic equation Y, of family, or sorry, of the algebraic equation letter Y, which is my desire to drink, is not as powerful as my commitment to algebraic equation letter X. X beats Y in this, in this scenario. And it has for now 3 years, and I wanted to continue to do that. But I want like all of the things that I do to maintain my sobriety. I want to keep doing like higher brain function. There's the being of two minds of things. There's the higher intellectual mind that says do the things that keep you sober. And then there's the lower mind that says things like, oh man, I just don't want to, whatever video game, however I'm feeling today, I don't want to do the things that I'm doing, which is, playing video games or podcasting. I don't want to do those things right now. I don't want to do that. Does that mean I move away from those things? Does it mean that I add things to that? Does it mean that tying something that I historically have enjoyed doing to something that I need to do needs to be uncoupled and I need to move in a different direction? I don't know. I don't want to. Like, emotionally, I don't want to, and higher-mindedly, I don't want to. Because I want to continue to enjoy I want to associate the parts of sobriety that are difficult with something that I can enjoy doing. But at what point in time does my enjoyment for that thing wane enough for me to make a mistake? And is it okay that the backstop for all of this is something that's kind of fear-based, is the idea of losing my family? And this is a question that's ever evolving. I'm supposed to do a Twitch stream tonight. I'm not unhappy to do it tonight. Partially, though, I feel a certain responsibility to the community that I'm trying to build, because I want to present them with things that are interesting to watch and that I can have conversations with if somebody pops in, things that I can play with my community. So I have two people in recovery in the community, one of which likes action RPGs quite a bit, and I want to be playing action RPGs with them. But the other guy doesn't have anything like that whatsoever. He's got an Xbox instead of a PC, and since we're primarily PC gamers, it's really difficult to have any kind of crossplay. Even though of the systems that are not PCs, Xbox has the best crossplay ability. So it's a lot there, and I want to make sure that the relationships that I have standing with the people that are in recovery in my community continue to feel like not only is this channel and this podcast, are they partially for them, because they are, I'm not trying to, it's weird. There's this place between pandering to my audience and being true to myself and trying to make sure that all of the above are satisfied. And I think I know what they would say if I were to pose to them, hey, do you want me to be doing more of the content that you specifically enjoy? I think they'd be like, you know what, I just want you to do whatever you want to be doing, because that's the place where the content is going to be best, like being true to yourself. But since it is since I'm trying to create a community, not just something where everybody's looking just at me, but trying to create a community where, people have some interactability with the platform in a meaningful way, I need to make space. I feel like I need to make space for that. So, yeah. So that's what's been on my mind recently. Those have been kind of the trials and tribulations. I'm going to keep doing, Tiki and Steve aren't here, obviously, so this would have been an easy one to just say, hey, no podcast this week, but I think it's really, really important for myself to put something out on a weekly basis, to check in, to let you guys know where I'm at, to let myself verbalize where I'm at. And I think I'm making this maybe sound a little bit more dire than it actually is. It's not. I mean, I'm still able to get to the place where I'm doing this stuff. It's getting the content's being created. This episode's going to go up on YouTube. It's also going to be on all the aggregators we already have. And then tonight and Friday and Sunday we'll be playing live on Twitch. Although I never know what I want to play, you know. Lately, the last couple of days, and this is kind of, you know, part of gaming news, I'm really enjoying Hunt again. I didn't think I would. Like, even with the stresses. Even with the stressors of that game, how difficult that game can be. I think that one of the things that's helping a little bit is that there's an in-game event that's going on right now where through story stuff and in-game mechanics, you can basically keep your character. You lose your gear when you die, but you can keep your character. So the sense of loss is blunted a little bit. Like, you're still losing, but you don't lose all the work that you've done. You're not starting from scratch. So, I've been having a lot of fun playing with a good friend of the show, Russ, and then playing a little bit with Tiki as well. He's been in and out when he's had the time to hop in and play. And last night, we did something I've never done before. We did what's called a naked run. It's streaking in the bayou amongst all the bugs and zombies and demonic creatures. And it was fun. It was fun. So the basic premise is, usually in the game, you buy a loadout. So loadout's got a primary, a secondary weapon, a bunch of tools for hunting stuff in the bayou, and then a bunch of consumable gear that you can use, right? So you have, you know, I think 4 slots for tools, 4 slots for consumables, a pair of weapons. Well, in this version, we just grab a med kit, which gives us 3 heals and a basic melee weapon. And that's it. And then you go running off into the bayou to try to scavenge, survive, stealth your way into hopefully eventually taking down one of the big bosses. So it becomes almost this storyline where you're playing 3 or 4 matches to build yourself up to a place where you can go and play against the other players. All the while, with limited resources, running around, jumping at every shadow, wondering about whether or not you're going to run into another group of players, which are by far the deadliest things in the bayou. Wondering if you're going to have the right gear to take out some of the enemies that are a little bit more difficult if you don't have the right gear. And it was a lot of fun. Had a great time. Played, I think, 5 or 6 matches. Died twice, had 2 kills. Extracted with bounty once, which is, you know, there's some nights in that game where you don't extract with a bounty at all because of X, Y, or Z. And that can be kind of a frustrating. That's where the stress comes, right? That's where the stress and the frustration come. What else have we been doing? We've also been getting into BattleTech, both the PC game and the miniature game. The price for the price per model is really inexpensive. And the amount of models that you need to be able to play a meaningful game, it's like 4 to 8. It's really a great game. It's based on a really old set of rules that were great in their inception back in like I think it was like the late 80s, early 90s when this game came out. So this game's been out a long time, and there have been some updates and some flavor stuff, and it's one of those games that the lore behind it is incredibly deep. We're going to talk about next week. We're going to talk a little bit about how do you get into games where the lore is incredibly deep without feeling overwhelmed. Like, imagine being told that the Dune universe, which is a huge universe that spans thousands upon thousands of years and is all centralized around this like one family. Imagine looking at the entirety of it instead of just looking at the first book, but looking at the entirety of it and being told this is what you have to learn. Like, you could take history courses on some of these worlds, these gigantic, canonically coherent worlds. I'm betting for like college credit. Like, seriously. I mean, I think it would be kind of a waste of college, but there's enough information there. You know, the George R.R. Martins, the Frank Herberts, the Brandon Sandersons, these incredibly in-depth fictional worlds that, you know, one or two people have a hand in creating, or three or four people have a hand in creating, whatever it is. And they're almost exhaustively complex. And how intimidating it is to take a look at this kind of stuff. And BattleTech is exactly the same way. It's interesting because it's a far future science fiction. It's like 1,000 years in the future. So I don't know if that's far. Is that near future? That's not near future. Near future is like 10, 20 years away. Mid-far future, I guess, maybe could work for that, maybe. But all of there's no aliens, there's no magic, it's not like Warhammer 40,000. It's just intergalactic, feudal style fiction, science fiction. And it's really good. No psychics, no magic, no mumbo jumbo, no hoodoo. Just kind of regressive thoughts on society and human nature as it has been studied in its most Machiavellian forms in a setting where there's big stompy robots. So that's what my sci-fi du jour has been, and trying to uncover it. There's a group called the Black Pants Legion. They're on YouTube, and they make some really, really interesting and funny videos, but they're all like 2 to 2 hours, or they're like an hour to 2 hours long, and each one of them dives into something specific about the universe. And there's so much information about all of it that they fill an entertaining hour to 2 hours per episode. It's really quite impressive. And it's funny because the way that they present it is as future history. They kind of have their shtick is, hey, we're going to do a lecture on this. We're going to do a history style lecture on this thing that happens in the future. And it's really well done. These guys do a great job. So Black Pants Legion, I think, is the name of the YouTube channel. If you're into BattleTech at all, go do that. Go take a look at their stuff, because their stuff was pretty bomb. So yeah, we're going to start painting those models after I get what's on the painting desk finished, which is the last of the 50 points of retribution of Syra models that I've been playing against co-host Steve and our good friend Ryan. They're both embarking on the painting side of the game right now, which is kind of fun and interesting. Ryan is asking for a lot of help with advice. Not a lot of help, but he's asking for advice on how to paint and what goes well. And there's so many different techniques, and some of them require different paint mediums. And I don't want to overwhelm them. But when they ask questions like, well, what's the best way to do shading on this type of model? And I'm like, well, buy this product and then learn how to apply this product. And it's like, there's ways to teach you how to do this stuff that have nothing to do with buying a new product. If you've got some paints, that you can create light, highlights, midtones, and shades, you can do just about anything on a model. You can Yeah, you don't need You don't need super special products. They're fun to have, and it's fun to engage with new techniques. Like when I was learning how to paint with the oil paints, and I'm still learning how to paint with oil paints. When I was learning how to do that, it was vastly fascinating because the style of painting with acrylics is a slow buildup of layers. So it's a very additive format. Oil painting is a combination of additive and subtractive. When you first start painting with oils on a freshly primed model, you put on a lot and then subtract a ton off of it using sponges and Q-tips and solvent, white spirits. And this leaves a stain on the model, which you then use as your primary color blocking to apply your midtones and your highlights. And all of that is done with applications of gross amounts of oil paint and then blending with dry brushes. And those midtones mix with the darker shades that are already in the recesses from the oil prime, and then create these smooth, beautiful, creamy blends. And then you apply highlights in the highest locations on the model. It's different when you're doing acrylics. Acrylics are layers upon layers of dark to light transitions in smaller and smaller areas. You start on, like, let's say a shoulder. You would do the entire shoulder in one dark color. Then you would go slightly lighter on a smaller area, and then slightly lighter on a slightly smaller area, and all the way up until you had this gradation from super dark to highlighted. So much different painting process. If you're interested in more information about miniature painting, you can check out my favorite miniature painter on the internet. His name is Marco Frissoni. That's Frisoni. He runs a channel called Not Just Mecha, Mecha, Not Just Mecha. He has one of the most infectious attitudes in such a positive way, and his technical skills as an artist are pretty phenomenal. And he ranges from showing deep technical technique all the way to how to apply those things for speed painting purposes. So if you're just trying to get models on the table quickly, these are ways that you can do it. If you want a deeper understanding of the theory of paint and color theory, which is just physics. It's all just understanding of light. He goes into that as well. He's got a great channel, and I highly suggest everybody take a look at it. That, honest to God, is about all I've got for this week. Just a quick check-in. Still sober, struggling a little bit with the creativity aspects of creating, or with the motivational aspects of creating content online. Concerned that I have linked the creative process to my sobriety, and whether or not the backstop of having a very, very fear-based, consequential view of what will happen to me if I do go back to drinking, or if I have a slip up or something like that, what that looks like. And then finally, getting back into hunt, enjoying deep worlds in a new way, or new deep worlds in a new way, with Battletech, both on the PC and on the tabletop. And then finally, talking a little bit about getting Ryan and Steve into playing some War Machine and Hordes and painting some miniatures. But like every episode of the Save vs. Poison podcast, we like to end things by shouting out to the mutual support groups that we hope you turn to in your time of need. There's Alcoholics Anonymous, AA.org, 212-870-3400, Moderation Management, moderation.org, 212-871-0974, Secular AA, That's aasecular.org, 323-693-1633. Smart Recovery, smartrecovery.org, 440-951-5357. And Women for Sobriety, womenforsobriety.org, 215-536-8026. You can see all the links up at the top left-hand corner if you're watching this on YouTube. For any friends and family that need help in a group-type environment, there's Al-Anon Family Groups. That's www.al-anon.alateen.org or 1-888-425-2666. We're going to have a fundraiser coming up in the next couple of weeks for a community member in need. Their house flooded. It fucking sucks. So we're going to do a little bit of a Twitch-a-thon where we're going to be matching some donations. We're going to do some wacky stuff. And I still haven't decided what else we're going to be doing for it. But please check our Twitter at @versus_save for more information about that. We'll be releasing a timeline for that in the next couple of days. I think that's it. From all of us here at the Save vs. Poison podcast, I'm Will. The others are MIA this week. But we will all be back again next week for you to laugh at the dick jokes of. And I wish you all warm, creamy regards. Good night, everybody. You've just listened to another episode of the Save vs. Poison podcast. If you liked what you heard, please follow us, like, and subscribe on Twitter at @VS_save, on Facebook at the Save vs. Poison podcast, and streaming live on Twitch at twitch.tv/SVP podcast. Thanks so much for joining us, and stay safe, everyone.